Welcome back to Tipping Point. Every presidential candidate is trying to convince us to vote for him or her. And the political ads aren't much help. They just tell us that the only option for a great America is that one candidate who purchased the ad. Let's take a look.
Let's make America great again.
Leadership you can trust.
I'm Ted Cruz, and I approve this message.
This election is about defeating Hillary Clinton and about saving what makes America unique. I'm Marco Rubio. I approve this message.
I'm going to fight until every little girl in America knows she can grow up to be anything she wants, even President of the United States.
As long as Washington is bought and paid for, we can't build an economy that works for people.
I'm Bernie Sanders, and I approve this message.
We do have a huge decision to make this year. I don't know if these ads will help or not, or if they're just a waste of money. But what is the best way to pick a candidate in the midst of all this politicking? Former Chief of Staff to Senator Mike Lee, Boyd Matheson, is back with me today to answer that question. Boyd, great to have you back.
Hey, thanks, Liz. Great to be with you.
All right, Boyd, people are saying this election is the most critical in our nation's modern history. Is that true?
I think it is, and I think it's really important for us to recognize the importance, but then also to look at how are we actually going to make that choice. As you teed up in the ads, Liz, there's so much noise out there, so much flying at us. And it's really hard. There aren't very many voters who will actually get that opportunity to shake a hand or ask a candidate a direct question. And I actually believe that isn't the important thing. The more important thing is for voters to ask themselves some questions when they listen to these candidates, when they look at their principles and policies. And to me, that's going to be the real determining factor.
Right, and I want to go down. You wrote an article about this, about what we as voters should be asking ourselves if we don't have the opportunity to sit down and talk directly to the candidates, what we should be asking ourselves about the candidates in deciding who to vote for. And I want to go through your questions one by one, kind of help the viewers realize how to make this decision or what might be best to determine if these candidates are good. But first, I do want to ask you a quick question about these advertisements that we just showed. As you know, swing voters make their decision near the election. Do these ads do any good, or are they just a wasted effort?
I think there's a lot of wasted effort in a lot of these ads. You look at what's been spent already, and in the end, I don't know anyone who's going to go into that voting booth and pull a lever based on an ad. I just really don't think that's how it's going to be decided in the end.
All right, let's take a look at some of your questions now. So what I want to do is ask the question, and then maybe you could give me an example of how to answer this. A candidate that would fit the bill, answer the question affirmatively, and one that's an example of why not to vote for them. So the first question that you pose is, how is this candidate positioned to show real, even presidential courage? Boyd?
All right, it's one of the most important questions in my view. If you look at someone and you see that they're really doing everything by consultant, everything is poll approved or consultant certified, that's a pretty good indicator of how they're going to govern. You need to ask yourself some questions around that of how is this person going to make decisions? Is it so that they can be popular, so that they can hold on to power, or are they simply going to do the right thing? And I think we have some good examples in there. I think you can look at someone like a Ted Cruz, who has really stood up and done things that were not popular, but he was willing to do that even if it meant that he was going to be a one-termer. I think some of the governors have had opportunities to do things like that. But the real question we have to ask is, how is this person going to make decisions? Are they going to make them by polls and what the political trends and winds are, or are they really going to do the right thing first, last, and always?
Right, it's kind of the difference between principle and politics. If you're going to make your decisions based off of the principles on which you ran your campaign, or if you're going to make your decisions based off of the politics or the mob mentality of the moment, which can change all the time. Question number two. The second question you pose asks, when you listen to this candidate, where does it lead your thoughts? And what do you mean by that?
This is one where you can actually flip the Ted Cruz model kind of on its ear. If you compare and contrast, the easy one would probably be Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio. When you listen to a Ted Cruz ad or you listen to him speak, you're often drawn in about him. And he's the fighter and he's the champion and he's going to do the right thing. And a lot of it is very centered on Ted the person. Marco Rubio's ads, on the other hand, and often when he speaks, while he talks about his personal story, most people, when they listen, they find themselves thinking about their family and their future, and it's very hopeful. And I think that's an important element. People in the United States really want to feel that someone gets them, and they want to feel like they're part of the story, that they're not just watching a story unfold.
Right, kind of the difference between using yourself as a celebrity or just making yourself more personable and saying, hey, this worked for me, let me show you how it works for you. That's a very interesting perspective. I think a lot of people wouldn't have necessarily made that distinction, but that's interesting, Boyd. Your third question is, what is this candidate for? Explain that one.
Well, it's really easy. We know what the candidates are against. They're against President Obama. They're against each other, fighting for the nomination. But the most important thing is, what is this person for? It's too easy to get caught up. And the ads that you showed really demonstrate that it's, I mean, Marco Rubio has already endured over $30 million in attack ads, and many of the other candidates have as well. But it really comes down to that sense and feeling of, I don't care what this person's against. There's plenty to be against. We're against big government. We're against high taxes. Those are all gimmies. But tell me what you're for. Give me your vision of the future. Give me the vision of what good government looks like to you. What is getting government out of the way so that people can live and be free and do the things that they do best? Those are things we really have to get down to. And I think we're going to struggle with that in New Hampshire this week. A lot of them are kind of into the whining phase of the campaign. I think they remember that the New Hampshire motto is live free or die. It's not live free or whine about your opponent. Tell us what you're for. Lead or get out of the way.
Right, and I think an example of that even happened in Congress this week with the repeal Obamacare bill, and that a lot of Republicans talk about repealing Obamacare, but what we really need to talk about is exactly how we're going to replace it. That's what's going to appeal to the American people. Until Republicans do that, they're just talking about what they're against, not what they're for. All right, we're close to running out of time, but I want to ask about your fourth question, and that is, does the candidate talk in generalities or in specifics? And try to throw some Democrats in on this one if you can.
This one's fairly easy. I think you can put I think you can put Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders on the stage on this one. They talk about things and they sound great, but they're big sweeping generalities of, we're going to be awesome. We're going to crush China. We're going to give everybody free health care and free college tuition. Those are all very wonderfully sounding items. But if you can't talk about the specifics, you really don't have a plan. And voters have to really test and challenge that. What are the specifics? Don't be content with the spin. Don't be content with just the bumper sticker slogans that many of these campaigns are putting out. Go to the website, look under the policies, look under the plans, and make sure you know that this person, that this candidate isn't just giving me a nice speech or a lot of rah-rah generalities. What are they telling me specifically they're going to do? How are they going to make it happen?
Yeah, and this is a good point, especially when it comes to Bernie Sanders, because he even says himself, he admits in his own words that his policies aren't really viable to pass Congress should he be president, that in addition to electing him to the highest office, the people of America would have to spark a political revolution in order to really pass the promises that he's been making on the campaign trail. Like I said, we're almost out of time, but one last question for you. This isn't your question this time. This is my question to you. You talk about candidates making friends versus keeping promises. How do we as voters tell what the candidate is doing in regards to their donors or their influence behind the scenes so that we know they're going to stick to their principles versus being controlled by their money?
Yeah, I think that's an important one because we have to really look at their track record. What have they done in the past? How have they conducted themselves? That's usually the best indicator. And you really can tell if someone is out to just make friends versus really standing on principle. And I know there's a lot of discussion out there if we want to have a president that we like, that's really a friend. Well, you know, having friends in Washington has put us almost $19 trillion in debt. And to be honest, a real friend is going to look you in the eye and tell you you're wrong or just tell you the truth. And I think that's what we really need in a president. Yes, we want a commander who can be loving and caring and compassionate, but we really need a commander-in-chief who's going to tell us the truth, who's going to tell us what we need to do, and then is going to go out and lead the way and say, we can do this as Americans. We can do it together, and here's the plan.
Right, and who isn't afraid to hurt people's feelings when doing the right thing.